Frequently asked questions about DUIs, sometimes they're called OVWIs, OWIs. Let's talk about the frequently asked questions that we get about them.
What is the difference between an OVWI and a DUI?
Essentially, there is no difference. It's just different ways of saying the same thing. OVWI stands for operating a vehicle while intoxicated. DUI stands for driving under the influence. Different states call them different things. In Indiana, a charge for what is commonly referred to as a DUI is called an OVWI here, operating a vehicle while intoxicated. And there are several different charges that come under that OVWI umbrella, but OVWI and DUI are essentially the same thing.
What are the potential penalties for an OVWI in Indiana?
There's a wide range of penalties here. They range from a C misdemeanor, which is the lowest crime on the books in Indiana. A C misdemeanor is punishable by up to 60 days in jail. That is a standard first time operating a vehicle while intoxicated charge. If there's no endangerment to another person shown, if the BAC is not above a certain level, that is where the C misdemeanor OVWI kicks in. It can also be an A misdemeanor, which is punishable by up to a year. And that A misdemeanor OVWI is if you've endangered another person or yourself on the roadway by your driving behavior, or if your blood alcohol content is above a 0.15, then it rises to the level of an A misdemeanor. It can go even higher than that. There are several ways an OVWI can be charged as a level 6 felony. The first is if there's a child under the age of 18 in the vehicle with you. If there is, the crime would normally be a misdemeanor OVWI act is risen up to a level 6 felony. The second way is if you have a prior OVWI conviction in the last 7 years. So any of those A misdemeanor or C misdemeanor OVWI possibilities that we talked about, if you have one of those within the last 7 years, even outside of Indiana, and you pick up an OVWI charge in Indiana within 7 years after that, the next time can be charged as a level 6 felony. There are also higher level felonies, a level 5 felony, for example, if someone is injured in an OVWI crash. In Indiana, that used to be a level 6 felony. The legislature changed it to be a level 5 felony, which has a maximum penalty range of 6 years in prison. So they keep getting higher, and it goes all the way up to if someone is killed in an OVWI crash, it can go even higher than that. So wide variety of sentences and charges that can be filed for OVWI in Indiana, ranging from the lowest misdemeanors up to high-level felony.
What is the implied consent law in Indiana?
So the implied consent law in Indiana is something anyone who is facing an OVWI charge has probably heard. What implied consent means is essentially that by driving on Indiana roads, you have agreed that you will take a chemical test if the officers have probable cause to believe you operated while intoxicated. They will tell you at some point during an OVWI investigation, they'll read off the card, we have probable cause to believe that you've operated a vehicle while intoxicated, and ask, do you now consent to a chemical test? The answer to that question should be yes. You have already agreed by driving on Indiana roads that you will take a chemical test. If you fail to take that chemical test, if you refuse to, then you are looking at an automatic refusal suspension of 1 year if you have no OVWI history, or 2 years if you have a history of OVWIs. This is above and beyond any driver's license suspension from the OVWI case itself. So you're looking at 2 license suspensions instead of just 1 from the OVWI case. And the worst part is they will still get your blood. They will still apply for a warrant that will almost certainly be granted if they have probable cause and get that blood. So you're just making things more difficult on yourself. Now, too often people don't realize this because you're not supposed to ever give evidence or testify against yourself. But this is the rare instance where it is in your best interest to go along with what the police want to do and submit to a chemical test.
What are the field sobriety tests and how do they work?
So we have a full-length video all about field sobriety tests, and it goes into great depth about what the officers are looking for. But typically there are 3 tests for an alcohol-related OVWI case that the officers are going to put you through. The first one we typically see is the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, where they'll hold some sort of pen or stimulus a short distance from your face and see if your eyes can track it. What they're looking for essentially is uneven movement in your eyes to show that you might be intoxicated. The second, they'll have you do what's called a walk and turn test, a series of steps. You'll then turn around and take the same series of steps back. They're looking to see if you can follow directions and keep your balance. Same thing for the final test that we typically see, which is a one-leg stand test, where you stand on one leg, try to balance. Again, it's about following directions and testing your balance. Now, these tests are designed to show impairment, but they aren't perfect. There are different ways that different people will have issues with them. Overweight people have issues typically with the testing. People with any sort of recent surgery who may have injuries, anything like that. All of those things will affect your ability to take the test. So watch our full-length video for a little bit more details on that to see what they're looking for. There are also other tests that officers may give, counting from say like 11 to 27, something along those lines. But those are not standardized field sobriety tests. Those are just other tests that the officers may use to try to show impairment.
What is BAC and how is it measured?
BAC is a blood alcohol concentration, and an ACE is an alcohol concentration equivalent. They're essentially the same thing. It's measuring the levels of alcohol in your system. They can either get that from a blood draw where they measure the percentage within 100 milliliters of blood, or from a breath test where they check it per 210 milliliters of breath. Those test results should be consistent with each other. Both are admissible in court if they're done properly. What they're looking to see is how much is in your system. So if you hear, oh, I blew a 0.15, that does not mean that 15% of your blood content is alcohol. It's 0.15%. And that's the impairment level that they're looking for. In Indiana, it is illegal to have a blood alcohol concentration above 0.08. And then again, it becomes a Class A misdemeanor if that rises above a 0.15.
How does an OVWI conviction affect your driver's license?
The answer is it depends. If you are an Indiana driver, we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen with your license. We can work with the Indiana BMV and try to keep you driving. Oftentimes, a suspension for an OVWI case is fully served by the time you get to the conviction stage. If you were suspended before the case was resolved, you get credit for all that time. Now, a conviction or a charge will almost certainly lead to some suspension. So we try to get specialized driving privileges to keep you driving during that period. Now, the way it can have an even bigger effect is if you have a commercial driver's license. We are unable to get specialized driving privileges for commercial driver's licenses. It's just not something allowed by law. It's written in the code. There's nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. We have similar issues if you have an out-of-state license. We cannot control specialized driving privileges. An Indiana judge can't give specialized driving privileges on an Illinois license. He does not have control over that. So you would have to speak with an attorney from another state about what you can do with that. That's something we'll discuss with you, what a conviction would look like for your ability to drive, because that's one of the main priorities people have when they're facing an OVWI charge is how can I keep driving?
How can I fight an OVWI charge against me?
There are many ways we can fight an OVWI charge. And one of the best ways we can figure it out is just by talking to you about what happened that day, what led to the charges, what happened with the investigation, just each step of the way. There are certain things I'm looking for to see if the state properly gathered their evidence, if the stop was legal, if the testing of the evidence was done correctly. All things that I'm looking for to see because, in some case, I found something where it wasn't handled correctly. So there's always a chance that if we get in there and we start digging, we can find something. It's never going to be obvious in the police report, and to the untrained eye, it's probably difficult to figure out. But we have years of experience within this office from both the prosecutor's office prosecuting OVWIs and then now doing defense work defending them, where we have seen just about every issue pop up, so we know what to look for. So give us a call and we can talk about what issues might exist in your case to fight this OVWI charge at 317-632-3642. Remember, always plead the fifth.